3, 2, 1. What is going on, everybody? This is the Undefeated by Choice podcast, brought to you by Still Fist Fights. This is another episode of Just My Opinion. We are just coming off the tail end of our May 31st fight card. It was excellent. If you missed it, then you weren't listening to me, because I was telling you to make it. I was telling you to come out and watch the fight. It was a great night of fights. Everybody performed really well. The kind of the standouts were the main events and co-main event. They were both exciting displays of martial arts. The co-main event, which ended up being the Trevor Bradshaw Joe Mama fight, ended a lot like I thought it was going to. I thought it was going to end real quick with some punches, and it only took 2 punches for Trevor Bradshaw to get the job done this time around. And they kept calling him one punch, because he did. He threw a mean right hook to finish the fight, and they kept calling him one punch. But it actually took him 2, because he threw a jab early on in the round. I mean, when I say early on, I mean like maybe 4 seconds before, because I'm pretty sure the fight only lasted 13 seconds. But yeah, he big congratulations to Trevor. That was a beautiful technical punch, perfectly landed. Shout out to Joe. Joe, keep your head up, man. Keep training. Get back in there. We'll love to see you back out again. And then the main event: Tracy Hardy versus Mike Jones. Mike Jones. Mike Jones showed a beautiful display of his hands. He went out there and just fired off great combos, technical, a lot of power, and just real good precision. It was exciting to watch. It ended in the first round, and it was exactly what I was promoting it to be, which was a striker versus a grappler. Tracy did look for a takedown. Mike fought it off really well, and hats off to Mike for going out there and doing his thing. Hats off to Tracy. You've got a skill and ability to get back in there with the best of them, and you can come back from that, and just keep your head up, my friend. And let's see you guys do this again. It was exciting, very exciting night. Every other fight on the card was so fun. It was really good. A lot of tough guys. There was early on. I believe it was the first fight of the night. I mean, there was this armbar attempt, and I can't remember who the 2 guys were, but there was an armbar attempt, and the person who was having it put on them, his defense was perfect, and I thought his arm was going to break. I thought it was going to snap, and he just was tough, and he did the right things to block it, and looked very advanced. His level to block it looked very advanced. I don't know if he just fell into that position or it was something he's practiced, but it looked really good. And the whole night was a great night of fights. And now we're looking forward to the next card coming up, June 28th. We've got a couple of the fights announced. I'll hold off on giving the announcement to those to some of those fights just as we go along in the show. But today I wanted to talk about, on Just My Opinion, a word that's tossed around quite a bit, that I don't know if everybody I don't think everyone has the same idea of what they think it means, and so it's an argument that we can have till the end of time, and it's the word the GOAT. Who's the greatest of all time? Now, me personally, I know the greatest of all time to be my good friend Chris Ayers. I've been calling him the GOAT for the longest time. We actually had a podcast together called Gadari and the GOAT. So to me, Chris will always be the greatest of all time. But to everyone else, I think it always falls under just who they like and who they want to say is the best, because in MMA, there's quite a few couple names that fall into this category now. You got GSP, you got Anderson Silva, you got John Jones, you got Daniel Cormier, you got was going to be TJ Dillashaw. I think he was on his way to get that, but I don't think he's gonna claim that now. And then Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, and what actually constitutes the GOAT? what I mean, I'm curious as to find out what the listeners, what what people in the MMA community, I'm curious to find out what they think the GOAT is, or who they think the GOAT is. What the qualifications are, because is there someone who dominantly cleans out their division? Is it someone who is undefeated, like a Khabib Nurmagomedov? Is it someone who is not only a good fighter but a good role model? Is it someone who's got a squeaky clean record outside of the octagon? Is it someone who beats their opponent so dominantly that it's almost as if they are that they are made of something else, that they are a different type of human? What is it that qualifies it? You have Anderson Silva, who in his prime was fighting really tough guys, and they were not anywhere near his level. They were, it looked like a video game. And his title run that he had and he was just seemed to be untouchable. He had a couple times that he may have looked like he was in trouble, like the Chael Sonnen fight, where he comes back and wins in the last couple minutes, and just shows his dominance even at any point of the fight, no matter where the fight's going or how the fight is going. You have the Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson run that lasted for, I don't know, I think is the most title defenses of all time, and just the dominant fashion in which he was putting people away. The fight where he ends the last second of the fight with he looks like he's going to do a suplex, a belly to back suplex, and ends up throwing the guy in the air, catching his arm, putting him in an arm bar, finishing the fight. And then talk about a class act, someone who didn't need to talk trash, someone who didn't need to, who didn't get in trouble outside of the octagon. All he did is, all he does is play video games outside the octagon, and then he looks like he's playing a video game in the octagon. So, you got that. You got Daniel Cormier, who's like an Olympic caliber wrestler who has been dominant in 2 different weight classes. Is a class act outside, a good role model for children outside of the octagon. Who's the heavyweight champion of the world and took the belt from the reigning champ pretty easily. And then, you've got, who else? GSP, who was in probably the toughest weight division of his time, and, just such a dominant champ. And then you have John Jones, who has cleaned out his division not once but twice. He came in as a young kid, and he was taking on the legends, the absolute legends of the UFC, who were all in his weight class. And he went in and put them all away, and then he goes away for some trouble that he gets into outside of the octagon, and then comes back, and now and then cleans it out again with the next generation of all stars. So he really, I think a lot of them have a case for being the greatest of all time. Unfortunately, in my opinion, Daniel Cormier does not get the nod for the greatest of all time because of his 2 losses to John Jones and how dominant John Jones was in those 2 outings against Daniel Cormier. So unfortunately for me, his name falls out of the hat because I don't think you can be the greatest of all time if you have lost pretty decisively to the same person both times or twice. So that takes his name out for me. I think, unfortunately, and it kind of breaks my heart to do this is because I love him so much as a fighter, but Demetrius Johnson, I feel, another thing is he had such a strong showing in another weight division that he was not really suited for. He was gaining a lot of weight to try to fight, or giving up a lot of weight to try to fight in a higher weight class before his weight class existed, and before the I'm trying to look at which one he was. Before the flyweights existed, he was fighting up, and he fought for the belt. He fell short to Dominic Cruz, but he still put on a good performance. So again, he's one that his name is easily in the argument, but for me personally, I don't think his name falls in there. And so then I'm left with GSP, Anderson Silva, and John Jones. For me, GSP, I don't give it to him because his fighting style was never, how do I put this? It was dominant. But it wasn't an exciting dominance. It didn't feel like he was playing a video game, like he was on a different level than these other fighters. He would get by on his impressive skill and his impressive talent, but at the same time, he had his loss to Matt Serra. He had his loss to Matt Hughes. He wasn't as dominant as of a mixed martial artist that I would put in the as the greatest of all time. And while I'm saying this, I'm realizing what a dick I might sound like. What a dick I might sound like sitting there giving my opinion of all these guys, and here I am, who's someone who's accomplished nothing in the sport. And so let me back up by saying every single one of these guys are absolutely phenomenal. Every single one of these guys has all my respect in the world, and I admire them. I follow their careers. I cheer for them. Everyone is outstanding. This is just a conversation that you hear so much that I'm really just curious as to what everyone else's thoughts on what qualifies someone as the greatest of all time and why they choose who they choose. I'm just giving you my opinion of why I choose who I choose to be the greatest of all time. And so don't take this as me really thinking I know anything. This is just like the whole segment is called Just My Opinion. So this is just my opinion, y'all. So then I'm left with Anderson Silva and John Jones, and it's razor thin, I think, for me to choose who is the best, because you look at the things that Anderson Silva did, the way that he fought, the way that he would beat people. The most famous is the Forrest Griffin fight, where Forrest is like throwing these punches and Anderson Silva is just keeping his head just at the end of just a fingernail away from every single punch, just showing how good his head movement is. Or I can't remember the guy because he's not in it anymore, and he hasn't fought forever. I think his last fight was against Anderson Silva, and Anderson Silva's first fight at 205. What was his name? And he threw that body kick, and Anderson just catches it and then just lays him flat, I believe, with a straight right. And that was just, and then guy goes down, and then Anderson just holds his leg and then stands over him and finishes him while he's standing up throwing punches. It was, you look at that and how dominant it was, and how it almost felt like he was toying with his opponents, just letting them think that they had a chance, or letting them think that they were going to put a combo or to put something together on him, and then he would just go in and finish him. It was pretty something to see. It's something to watch. I go to John Jones and I just look at the caliber of fighters that he's put away. When you have dominantly put away twice someone who is in the running to be the greatest of all times, who is in people's mouths as being the greatest of all times, you've put that person away twice pretty easily. How can you not? It's almost like, how can you not be considered the greatest of all time? What he did to Alexander Gustafsson twice, who is considered to be one of the best 205ers to ever do it. He just name after name after name of people that John Jones has put away, and he's done it pretty convincingly. His toughest fight was against Alexander, and when he decided to put it on, he put it on. To me, it's To me, and to me, I don't care what he does outside of the octagon, because here's the thing: I'm a grown ass man. I don't need a role model. I'm sorry, and my kids don't need anyone else to be their role model. My daughter doesn't need anyone else to be her role model other than me. So whatever he does outside of the octagon really doesn't. I have no problem with that. None of that affects me. None of that affects the way I look at him, because I'm not looking at him to be anything other than a great fighter. I don't need him to be anything else for me. I don't need him to be anything else for my family. So, me wanting him to be a better man because other people are looking at him, I'm just telling other people, hey, you be a better man. So I don't care what kind of problems he gets in outside the octagon, unless he's really like hurting people. If he's some sort of criminal in that manner, but he's partying on his own. It's his own choice. He's doing it to his own body. And some might argue he hurt the lady when he broke her arm, and I understand that was bad. You can't do that. But I think what I am actually getting at is just, I don't need him to be a role model. I just want him to be a good fighter. And when I just look at that, just look at the facts, just look at what he's done as a fighter, it's a hard argument against John Jones being the greatest of all time. So I'm honestly curious as to what everyone else thinks. So go ahead, leave your comments below, and let me know what y'all think. Now, the reason this all came about is because this guy is talking about being the GOAT, and I can't get on board with this. I can't even put his name in the conversation. I don't see it yet. And it may just be because personally, the way he talks, the way he tries to sell fights bugs the shit out of me. But Henry Cejudo, who's a guy who's a phenomenal fighter. Again, I don't want to disrespect how good of a fighter he is, but holy hell, every time he opens his mouth, he gets annoyed. I can tell you this, he can't talk. He can fight, but the dude can't talk. The things he says is just so dumb. So he had an interview, and I'll just read it verbatim what he said, and then I'll let you take it. I'll let you get your opinion off of it. He says, I've been called a lot of nasty things in my life, and I'm sick of it. I've been called a gold digger. I've been called a son of gold, which, first of all, who calls you a son of gold? That's the worst nickname ever. If anyone calls you that, they're an idiot. So I don't even know what that means. But sorry, it's not really verbatim if I jump in there and give my opinion, but I think that's the dumbest nickname. He says, I've been called an Olympic champion. I've been called the UFC champion, Hall of Famer, author, dream catcher, dream snatcher, goat killer, the king of cringe, greatest combat athlete of all time, but never have I ever been called the P word, and I'm sick of it. On June 8th, that's all going to change. I will be the next pound for pound king. You can tell Daniel Cormier, you can tell John Jones, you can tell Khabib Nurmagomedov. Why am I struggling with Nurmagomedov? There is a new sheriff in town. His name is Henry Cejudo. And guess what, Dana White, if you're watching, he happens to be a flyweight. First of all, let's go over these nicknames. So, Son of Gold, terrible nickname. I don't even know what it means. It makes no sense to me. An Olympic champion, I hope someone's called you that because that's what you are. A UFC champion, again, it's not a nickname. It's a fact. It's what you are. A Hall of Famer? Yeah, probably. They've got to fill that room somehow. They don't got a lot of fighters in there, so I guess, yeah, you can go into the Hall of Fame. An author? No, I didn't know you wrote a book, but if you did, then yeah, technically you're an author. Dream catcher. Someone called him a dream catcher. All right, cool. All right, dream snatcher. I get it. Probably some nerd in your camp called you that. Goat killer. I don't know. I mean, if you're going goat killer, then you're talking about your fight with Mighty Mouse, and I don't think you killed him. You lost the first time, and if I remember correctly, you were badly hurt in the first round of the second fight, and he probably could have finished you had he gone for it. But I'm not gonna take away your win. You won, good for you. But goat killer. Oh, and let's talk about that TJ, but I don't think TJ was the GOAT, so I don't think you're a GOAT killer on that one. hats off for what he did to TJ. That was pretty impressive. The king of cringe. You're right. You are. I will call you the king of cringe because all your interviews are cringe-worthy. Like, listening to you talk makes me cringe because you're not good at it. You plan it ahead of time. It's scripted, and then your memory is not that good, and you don't really pull it off that well. But so yeah, I'll give you that. King of cringe. That's a great nickname for you. The greatest combat athlete of all time. I think you gave yourself that nickname. I'm pretty sure I've heard you say that about yourself many times, and maybe you heard one person say it one time, but you definitely have taken that upon yourself to call yourself that. And then, you go on to say you want to be called the pound for pound greatest of all time. And I just don't see it. I don't see it, Henry Cejudo. You haven't convinced me yet. So for what it's worth, which is absolutely nothing, because who the hell am I other than just some guy sitting in his basement doing a YouTube video, iTunes or iHeartRadio video. So take it for what it's worth. But yeah, that's my thoughts. That's my opinion on who is the greatest of all time and why he is the greatest of all time. And I know that I might be alone in some of my thoughts, and that's okay, because at least I have my own thoughts. I'm not a follower. I'm not just following the crowd, and I have purpose and reason behind my thoughts. So if you disagree, or if you have someone that you think I missed that should be on the list that isn't on the list, go ahead and leave comments in below. Go ahead and reach out to me on any form of social media and let me know your opinion. I may talk about it. But most importantly, we need to talk about the fights coming up. June 28th. We have a main event with Carson Hardman versus Brian Thomas. We have a co-main event for the heavyweight. For our heavyweights, Eric Eyman versus Mike Robinson. We have Alden Ashcraft versus Dominic Salas. Steve Ergel versus Trev Golden. We have Holly Mickelson versus Missy Brainerd. We have Josh Meacham versus Brody Fernelius. And Steve Constantino versus Brian Reed. Those are just the names that we've announced for the next card already. That to me is an exciting card. I really, anytime you see Carson get into the fight, you've actually heard his name be brought up on this podcast by other fighters before, because he's just one of those guys who's been in wars with almost everybody. And when I say wars, I mean bloody battles. They are. Did I just take it down from a war to a battle? He's been in bloody wars with a lot of people, and he's just someone he's one of those fighters that no matter what trouble he's in, he can find a way to win, even if it is just getting his opponent tired by beating on him. He's one of those guys who can take a punishment and then find a way to win, and those are always exciting. Those comeback stories. And to him, it's almost like it's not a comeback for him. It's just that's his game plan. So I look forward to getting him on the podcast and figuring out if that is his actual strategy going into a fight. Is to just take a beating, wait till they get tired, then catch him with something. Eric Eyman is a fighter that I've actually experienced some sparring rounds with. A guy I have a lot of respect for. He's helped out a lot of my teammates, and really nice guy. Look forward to talking with him on the podcast. Alden is another fighter I've gotten to know through my time doing this. Just chatting with him at fights, picking his brain about matchups and stuff like that. What he thinks about potential opponents, and I always just seem to run into him at fights, and then I end up cornering him for about 20 minutes talking to him about fights. So he's another one that hopefully we can get on the podcast, and I can corner him and ask him a bunch of questions with purpose rather than just something to talk about because he's standing there. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got for today's episode. Just my opinion. Everybody let me know what you think about the GOAT. Let me know what you think about last week's fights, and let me know what you think about this upcoming card, who you got, and why you got that person. I think that's that's I think that's all I got for you. I'm trying to look around here and see if I got any more announcements, but that's pretty much it for right now. We got a big project we're working on Still Fist. I'm excited. It starts tomorrow, and it's about what I talked about last time on Just My Opinion, which is trying to bring up more women into the MMA game in Utah. Got a big project we're working on. I'm excited about it. So you just stay tuned, and you'll get to hear about it and see it for yourself. Everybody, you can, if you are looking for us anywhere, wherever you're listening to this now, if you're looking for other ways to hear us, you can find us on YouTube, Undefeated by Choice. You can find us on iHeart Radio app, Undefeated by Choice. You can find us on iTunes, Undefeated by Choice. And you can find us on Facebook at Still Fist Fight Night. You can find us on Instagram at Still Fist Fight. That's it. Everybody, be good to yourself, be good to each other. I love you.